Hello, filmmakers, and welcome to the Wedding Film School Show, a podcast dedicated to the craft, business, and personal aspect of running a wedding film brand. The Wedding Film School Show is hosted by myself, Jared Haskell, and my longtime business partner, Jason McCutcheon. If you're looking for free resources or to get your wedding film business off the ground, make sure to check out weddingfilm.school or check us out on Instagram for news, giveaways, and more.
Welcome to the Wedding Film School Show. My name is Jason McCutcheon, and you've joined us in the middle of kind of a fun little mini-series. We're talking about the road to clarity. Clarity is our 2 full days, 3-night retreat in New York City at the Beekman Hotel. We're going to be hanging out with some awesome filmmakers. We got Julia Kentner, Ryan Brown from Forged in the North, Lindsay Conklin from The Rev, myself, Bobby, and a bunch of other filmmakers. So if you are looking for some awesome wedding filmmaking education and really to go deeper with people, talk about business, be with like-minded people who are accomplishing something in the industry, then you should come. And another reason you should come is because one of our other speakers who's here today is amazing, and her name is Sharrone Calafiore from Fiore Films. Hey, Sharrone, how you doing?
Hi, Jason.
How's your day?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing so good. I'm so excited about this. I'm so excited to go to New York with all you guys, and I'm excited to talk to you today.
Yeah, I'm excited that you're coming to New York.
I love New York. I always tell everybody it's
I'm finally going to find. I know you've been coming to New York. It's just that I've never caught you.
Yeah,
I never caught you there yet.
It's tough. I'm lucky enough that I live near Boston, so it's not that bad of a journey for us. But we have access to the best city in the world, and I can't wait to be there. So, if you don't know Fiore Films, you need to look at their work, and you know, one of the things about your work, Sharrone, that always strikes me is it just manages to be so familiar but so different. And so if you're looking for something that kind of is going to scratch a different itch in wedding filmmaking, I always point people and say, have you seen this though? You got to go check this out. This is going to make you think in a totally different way about wedding filmmaking. So my question to you is, have you always been this good?
Oh, geez. Yeah, I was born this way. No, I mean, I don't think so. No, I feel like I've always had like a particular vibe, like a contrasty, moody, shadowy sort of vibe. But as far as you know, just as far as skills,
so I'll put words in your mouth,
the way that we
a little bit. Like,
okay.
When I look at your stuff, like, I think this is a person who is not interested in doing something just because someone else is doing it. She has a strong idea of what she wants to do. And I think that comes across throughout your work. Hey, so before we get into the weeds with kind of all the creative process and all the fun stuff that we're both going to probably go off on forever, I wanted to ask you, you recently made a change and as filmmakers, like, cameras, they're pretty close to our heart, right? Like, it's like an extension of our body in some ways. You just made a change over to Nikon. How did that kind of come about? Like that team up?
So it was an insanely lucky situation. And that's a story that I really would love. I'll tell the actual story at Clarity because it's a really great story. And it's actually a great, it's really just a great example of drowning out the noise and just, you know, putting your work out there, you know. But I was just really, really lucky. Nikon reached out to us. They bumped into one of our pieces of work on Instagram, and you know, at the time, they're just kind of they're really, really looking to get involved with the wedding filmmaking community. They're obviously Nikon is well known in the photography world, but not necessarily in the wedding filmmaking world. They were really looking to get involved at the time. They were searching for something. They bumped into our work, which was really something really lucky. And we did a couple of projects for them. And then they asked us, if we would be interested in, in moving over to Nikon and just working with them regularly. And you know me, Jason, I'm not a technical person. I'm not a gearhead by any means. To me, I'm also not, I don't think that I'm like a sellout when it comes to gear. I don't really care as a matter of fact, even what I I shock people when they hear that I'm not editing on anything that everyone else knows. But when we picked up these cameras, we were just like, holy shit, this is amazing. These cameras are amazing. And I fell in love with the way that the color of the cameras were, the capabilities of the cameras. So I was happy to move over, and really, really happy to kind of bring awareness to our community, at least, of just not only the amazing capabilities of the cameras, but Nikon as a whole, it's just such a warm and fuzzy like company that really, they're just amazing humans to be around. So
cameras are interesting because
that's the story. Yeah,
cameras are interesting because people like. There's like a level of like, oh, you do this with the camera. Oh, I'm a this shooter. I'm a that shooter, and I get it because whatever, it's like something to, like you have something in common with someone, so that's good. But
really funny because Nikon, like they have the hybrid cameras, but they had the Z9, which was a bigger camera, or they still do. The Z9 is a very big camera, mostly for photographers use. But they had video on there.
It was actually very solid video.
Solid video, ProRes RAW, and I'm like, why are you keeping this a secret? Like no one knew.
I think like
Nikon
just
was
my
shooting
2 cents
ProRes
on
RAW.
it is like, I think like Canon is a good example, and no offense, Canon, if you're listening, but also offense. Like they don't care about wedding filmmakers. They're like old school prestige photography brand. So it's all like Nat Geo shooters and like, fashion. And like, I think a lot of camera brands are missing the boat in terms of like engaging with the wedding filmmaking community, because wedding filmmakers buy lots of cameras more often than most anyone else. Like not many people own 3 or 4 DSLRs or mirrorless cameras.
Right.
But wedding creatives do, and wedding filmmakers will replace them.
The amount of lenses.
Yep. And they'll replace those things every 3 or 4 years, if they have to.
Yeah, we're kind of lunatics in our industry, yeah.
And so, like, it's a great group, and I always have thought, like, if companies would fully engage with the filmmakers, there's a lot of money to be made, but also, like, a lot of beautiful work to be made. And I was really so excited when they, like, every once in a while you see, like, why are they going to that guy? And it's just because they're popular. And it's like, I felt like the fact that they gravitated towards you, I was like, that told me something about what their beliefs are. Not that you're not popular, but you're on the edgier side. They could have went for something safer, and they were like, no, let's do something fun. Let's do something that inspires us. And it tells you a lot about their values. And so that I noticed that one. I was like, all right, Nikon, I see you. Like, I see what you're trying to do. Because, like, you're kind of like the wedding filmmaker's filmmaker. Like, that's how I view
Yes.
it. It's
Yes.
like if you're a wedding
Yeah.
filmmaker, like you love people like Sharrone, right? You're like, this work is just, it's goals. Like you said, it's not for every
Thank you.
client, but for people who like to shoot, you're like, it's very inspiring. And I felt like that was a good play for them to work with someone like you, but also, I was excited for you because I know A, what that means for you, and B, I wanted to see what you could do with not wicked old camera.
Yeah, no, it's they definitely pushed me out of my comfort zone. So it's another I guess welcoming challenge for me, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, and they really are very passionate. They're very sincere with everything they do. All of their ambassadors are just they handpick their ambassadors to be they just had a whole like an ambassador thing. I met all the ambassadors from the U.S. and Canada and Mexico, and some from Canada and some from Mexico, and it was just the warmest, fuzziest group of people that you could ever imagine. So yeah, they're really looking to be involved in the filmmaking community. They're no dummies, and this workshop that they have coming up in February also, it's a 3-day thing, and I'm trying to really explain to people that it's just basically Nikon is sponsoring this workshop to be involved in the filmmaking community. It's not a Nikon shooter thing, and they're not even trying to sell Nikon. They're just really doing it to be more involved in our community.
How do people connect to that workshop?
Yeah, they can go to it's right in my bio on Instagram at Fiore Films. So they have a direct link to that, or they can go to Nikon's website and it'll be under the education tab.
Great.
The workshop is February 25 to 27 in Vegas at the Canyon Ranch. And it's going to be myself, Yamin Studios, White and Reverie, Justin Porter is going to be emceeing it, Melissa Guiones, Jerry Guiones, Joshua Duane will be there, and Cliff Montner. It's going to be awesome. We're going to not only be speaking, but we're doing a faux wedding situation where, it's going to be a style shoot type of thing, but not where we're, the attendees can just shoot. They could either bring their own gear, or Nikon will have gear there for them if they want to play around with. But we'll also be sort of, I want to say, mentoring. So we'll also be it'll be like a one-on-one thing while they're shooting. So it's not just going to be it's not a styled shoot per se, but they will be able to shoot faux wedding things while we're with them,
That'll be amazing. So let's talk about being creative again. Let's move it. Let's switch gears and talk about weddings. And so tell me about this. One of the things I always notice about your frames in your films is the way that you let action come to the frame instead of bring the frame to the action. Am I reading that right?
Yeah. No, yes, you are. You are. I mean, I would definitely say that in that sense, we've obviously evolved with the times, and that's also comes from working with some amazing other videographers throughout the years. Also having relationships with other videographers throughout the years, maybe some constructive criticism, shooting with them, learning from them. So I think these workshops that are just like yours, I feel like are just far and few now these days. These types of things are so valuable,
When you think about,
no.
So just to get to my question again, when you're thinking about a frame, and you're thinking about a wedding
Mm-hmm.
day, like honestly, like sometimes I feel like you're setting a trap. Like you're anticipating motion and then you're letting the thing go
Yeah.
into the frame. And I find that to be so different than a lot of other people who are hunting for action. You can tell that they're like looking for something and their camera is searching. And I feel like this level of confidence in your work where you are like, this is what's going to happen. I'm always like, how did she have the patience to wait for that frame to develop? And it's not just the
I
whole
love
like,
that. You want to hear that actually? So I'm actually in the middle of editing something, and it's not even one of our shooters. I'm cutting his footage, and I'm watching him just waiting on this bird to fly away. To
yeah.
fly away. The bird is just sitting on, and he's just waiting. And you could like, I mean, the clip is like forever. You could see it, and then it stops. The bird never flies away, and then he starts again. The bird is still in the same spot, so he's waiting
He's
for
waiting.
this bird to
Yeah,
fly
exactly.
away. He's waiting, and the clip cuts again, and then it's the next clip, and the bird is gone.
Oh no.
He would. He just.
Oh,
So I mean, we
sadly,
don't always,
I've been there.
Yeah, we don't always win. I actually call that videographer's luck sometimes, like when you're just getting you see something about to happen, or it's going to happen, and you finally have, you have your shot leveled and your white balance is all set and everything is ready to go, and you just miss the shot, or the sun suddenly, your light completely changes. I call that videographer's luck. But yeah,
Or bad luck.
yes, definitely what we do. Yeah, well, yeah. But yeah, no, it's definitely an anticipation. It's knowing what's about to happen, or assuming what's about to happen, and being patient for it, and also being properly composed for it, for just like interesting composition for them, not just hitting record. And I feel like I feel like that's kind of what what we strive for, is to capture real moments, but in an interesting way, not just capturing a moment, but capturing it in an interesting way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think like that example you gave really symbolizes, I think, in a lot of ways, one of the best things. It's not the only thing about your work, because nobody wants to be pigeonholed, but I think it's a big aspect of your work is like the confidence and the like taste to find a good frame, and the confidence to wait for something to happen in the frame, and the intelligence and the anticipation to know what's going to happen. And I think so many people, if they would just slow down and they had a strong idea of what they wanted and what their sensibilities are, and then a strong idea of what was happening, and not, so many people I think are just white knuckling it through a wedding day, Sharrone.
Well, I think a lot of it also has to do with people that are trying to make things happen. There's one one shooter. He helped us out when he's pretty seasoned in the industry, and when he helped us out a while ago too, he actually said to me, he's like, I thought that you guys directed so much more than you actually do. And I think that's where we probably shine most, is when we don't direct and we just let things happen. And I think what's going on these days, especially more than ever, is not as including, and this includes like everyone. This includes, I mean, even the bridal attendants and photographers, and I think just everyone, because of the pressure that's being put on us now for what we have to. I mean, it's just my theory. It's just pressure that's put on everyone, for what needs to be put out there on social media. But I think that people are just not letting things happen naturally anymore. and those things that happen naturally is the gold. You know what I mean? It's gold.
Mm-hmm.
Those little in between moments, those, not just the shot, but what's happening in between. Even the couple being done with a shot and walking away, or, you know, a bride walking up to her. I was so lucky with our last job too, where the groom he has kids, and it just so happened that the daughter was waiting for him to like step outside so he could like see her for the first time, and like it just happened in like not the most perfect spot or whatever, but it's a real moment that was it happened. You know what I mean? It wasn't.
And don't you think
it didn't need to be directed? You know what I'm saying?
Well, I mean, yes, exactly. I mean, you don't, if you're doing your job right, just by the nature of the event, it's a wedding. Like everyone's happy for the most part. And it's significant and meaningful. If you're doing your job right and you're cognizant and you're paying attention, you should be able to walk into a few home runs in the day without necessarily having to put, you know what, I always say this when I'm doing film critiques on YouTube, and one of my pet peeves with a filmmaker, I don't want to feel you in the film. Like, I don't want to be aware that you are shooting it. I want you to disappear. I want it to just feel like I'm watching, either I'm getting lost in like something abstract, or I'm feeling like I'm there or something, but I don't want to feel like this is being shot by a wedding videographer. I want to just feel the emotion of the day or something else. And I think a lot of people don't realize that everyone can tell that they are making all these things happen and that this isn't reality. And the best way I can put it, it's very low end to me. It's low brow. I don't like it. For me, like, everyone whose work I admire is either borderline like editorial fashion kind of direction, which I think is a different type of direction, to be honest, than telling someone like, do the first look again. That's not fashion. That's why would you do that twice? I know, I can tell that you do it twice because you just showed me an angle of that bride walking up, and then you showed me an angle of you trailing them with the gimbal. So I know that that's a fake shot. Like, why are you doing that kind of stuff?
First look is one of the things of the day that for me, when it starts, I know that we always strive for, a beautiful location for first look, and the most perfect, image and shot. But honestly, like, that's one part of the day where I feel like if it's too much of a struggle, and any photographer that's worked with me will vouch that I'm just like, you know what? Let's just let this thing happen. I don't care where we are, what we're doing. Let them have their actual moment, and we'll shoot it. And then we have more time to pose and direct for portraits, but let them at least enjoy their actual first look.
Exactly.
Because when you're making like a whole to-do out of it, you're actually taking away from the bride and groom actually having a real moment of their day. And then what's the point? I mean, was the first look really, is it just for photo and video for the bride and groom? I don't know. I would hope not.
I don't.
But what's the point? What's the point of taking all that time out that you could actually be directing portraits and doing what you need to do for portraits? Forget the first look. Let them just have their moment. I don't know. Again, this is me speaking from.
For what I agree with you. I mean, yeah. I don't want to say I don't care about the first look. Because I care about my clients, and if they care about it, I care about it. But I don't need it to make a good film. And I'm not
for the film. That's what I'm saying, for the film.
I'm not counting on it, so they don't
give it to them. Give it to them on the side. Give it to them on the side as a raw clip.
They don't owe me anything with the first look. I'm not needing it. I'm not going like, dang, we better get a good. I always hear this all the time. Like people go like, oh, what do I do with this film? They'd had bad toasts. I don't know what to do. I'm like, then don't include. Then just you have a video with bad toasts. Like, it is what it is.
They want to have it for them.
It's event filmmaking.
It doesn't mean that it doesn't. Right.
Like,
right. And it's just wasting time. It just wastes time, and it wastes their act. It wastes the momentum of it wastes their excitement. You know what I mean? It feels frustrating. So, and it's kind of like no way to start portraits.
Well, and also, for you, what I mean? For what you do, I think like it is marked by a lot of patience and intentionality and of course creativity. Have you found as a filmmaker that like the more that you almost take hands-off approach, the more that your couples are naturally doing what you want them to be doing? Or do you find there's like a time in order to do what you do where like you do need to put your stamp on the day when it comes to working with the couple and getting the shots you want?
Yeah, for the most part, again, it's these little. I'm actually working on a feature right now where we worked with a photographer that. I have to say that we do work with a lot of photographers that do kind of let things happen also. But it's just, I don't know. I just feel like it's never the couple. It's just always the surroundings that takes away from them having natural moments. Whether it's, and again, like, I don't want to come down hard on bridal attendants because I know that they're just doing their jobs. People are just doing their jobs. And there's just, again, like, I just feel like there's just so much more pressure these days
I always tell them, like,
ever.
Get out of there. Get out of the
shot.
shot.
It's so frustrating. It's really frustrating when anyone, we just can't just stand back and let things happen sometimes. Anymore. I look back at my stuff from 219 versus now. So 219 was before COVID, and versus now, and the things that we were, and I mean, wedding's a live event. It's always a challenge.
Yeah,
it was always a challenge. You know what I mean? But I just feel like that year, like I look back at the stuff that we did in 219, and I'm like, God, like, we were able to capture this and that and these things happening. It's so almost impossible to capture that stuff today. Like, I just feel like it's just I don't know, like, do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like, don't you feel like it's not as easy? But anyway,
so I don't feel a pressure around it, but because it's like, okay, it's just a different working environment, and but I will say, if you haven't worked industry weddings is what I call them, and as you get into like higher end, like both Sharrone and I come from an urban area, so I shoot in Boston and she shoots in New York a lot. And so even when you're doing like mid-tier kind of hotel weddings, like, you still grapple with the city and the timelines that the city puts upon you. And then I also do a lot of timelines. We do a lot of weddings up in like Vermont, and you're doing a 45-minute portrait session because there's nothing else going on, and you don't have 2 hours of traffic that you have to fight through just to get through the wedding.
We don't even know what the fuck to do with 45-minute portrait session. Like, we're just so not used to it. And when we do have those, don't you feel like, oh my God, like, what?
I hate it.
With all these portraits.
I would much rather go shoot more B-roll than shoot 45 minutes of portraits.
I know, but you have to shoot those portraits because
Exactly.
there's things that are happening in between that you just don't want to miss.
Well, not only
Also,
that, if the
uh,
couple wants a 45-minute portrait session, they value it.
yeah,
And so
yeah,
like I got to do what
exactly.
they value, and like ultimately um it is what it is. So I acknowledge 100% that you get into bigger weddings, okay, what are you going to have? You're going to have dress changes. You're going to have bridal attendants. You're going to have overbearing moms that are like, we need to go inside. She's cold. You're going to have you're going to have 30 minutes of details of the room you have to shoot, or rooms packed with so many people you can barely set your tripod up, and so can barely shoot the couple's face because the florals are 27 feet tall directly in front of their face during the toasts. Like, there are challenges that come up as you elevate, and I will say, though, in my opinion, Sharrone, I know you know the difference, and I can kind of see the difference, but I think one of your strengths is like your filmmaking style has traveled as your career has grown. I don't think it's so different that you would look at it and go like, this is like a different person. What a sellout. I'm like, so my question, and then I want to ask another question before we close, but my question is like, how has that evolution been for you? Because you mentioned like 2019, you felt like, in some ways, like you have that year where you're like, this is like everything I imagined I would be doing. I'm doing it the way I want to. And then usually when that happens, success follows. And then you kind of have to make those compromises in some ways.
Yes, yeah.
How has that been for you as a pure artist who I think is still maintaining their identity? How has that been to kind of maybe develop and stretch and change a little, but also still be yourself?
Yeah. So, I mean, this is like a little conversation that I always have. It's finding balance, because it's finding balance in staying true to yourself, right? I mean, all right. Again, this is coming from. I never like to act like I know. Like it's not a one size fits all. Obviously, none of what we do is a one size fits all. So I'll just say, like, for me personally, it's about finding balance in staying true to yourself and I'm doing air quotes now, your art, but also and I hate to put it this way, but like selling a product, like making your product needs to be marketable, especially now with and I feel like obviously times have changed too, just like fashion or anything, things evolve. And so you have to kind of, you have to evolve with it while staying true to yourself. So if you're not staying true to yourself and what you do, me personally, I wouldn't feel inspired, and so if I'm not feeling inspired, then, or if anyone in the artistic or creative world is not feeling inspired, you're doomed.
Well, let me ask you a question. Tell you how this feels.
Yeah.
Like the way I think about it is like, I think when most people say inspired, right? They mean like this artsy fartsy woo woo thing. And that's good too, by the way.
Yeah. But, I hate using the, artist what I mean?
But when I think inspired, I think about the things that come naturally to me. Like I'm not making a choice. Like I'm not like processing, like I have to do like, oh shoot, these people paid a lot of money for this table setting and this giant floral. I need to shoot it. The inspiration might be I should shoot it this way. But if it wasn't a nice floral arrangement and they didn't pay a lot of money for it, I wouldn't shoot it. I'm shooting it because I'm making a calculated decision, and then I want to be inspired. But then there are times like the couple's brother plays a song at the wedding, and I go like, what could I do with that song? Like in the edit, could I do something? Like I don't want to show the guitar, like, and so like, oh, let's take his vocals out and then play our own arrangement under them. Like it's like taking what the day gives you. That's how I view as inspiration. But also in like doing the things that don't require you to just go through all those checklist thoughts. Like, and so I feel like one of the things I've looked at with your work and what I always am like, why is she getting luckier than most people? Like she's finding more uptime and getting better, more quality shots than the average wedding filmmaker. And I gotta believe, like, it's back to that. You have a unique vision of what you want to do. And I think knowing what you want to do helps because you're not making that decision. You're just naturally doing it. And then I think the other thing is the patience. Like, the more patient you are, the more inspired you'll be. That's my.
The more patient you are, the more inspired you'll be. Yeah, I mean, I also think it's a matter. Well, first of all, thank you. You're so awesome, Jason. You're so supportive, and that's why, I'm so appreciative for how supportive you've always been through the years of Fiore Films. And I think, you know what, that's part of what inspires us too, a supportive community and the love that we get and the support that we get. So
yeah, say nice things to people. If you're listening to this, if you know someone,
say nice, and that's exactly right. That's why I mean, it's true. Saying nice things to people goes a long way. You have no idea how, you might make their day, or literally you might inspire their work.
There might be somebody who's like, I'm about to quit,
better.
Or I'm going to change my color grade because no one likes it. And then you're like, oh my God, I love your color. And they might be like, oh, you saved my business.
Yeah. So. Yeah. That's right. You saved my business. You saved my peace of mind.
Yes.
But yeah, no. I think it's a little of everything. I also think it's our couples. Honestly, we have a very distinct. Yeah, we have a really distinct couple that they really love and appreciate what we do, and so they trust us. And they're the ones that give us the gold. Obviously, they give us the gold in their time. And so we're really, really lucky to have. You know what though, our style has never and will never be for the masses, but for the couples that love our work, that's what they connect to each other. They all, and that's what makes them. That's why I always say they're so distinct. They never take themselves too seriously. We have couples that are. There some luxury weddings that I have one coming up where I was on a Zoom with the planner and the mother of the groom, and I mean, this is a real to-do wedding. It's a big wedding. It's a really, really big wedding, and the only thing that the mother talked about that was important was family, and she just wants us to capture family, and there's family coming in from out of the country, and family this and family that, and they are they have a big planner and a big big designer coming in, and not one word about capturing the florals, not one word about asking for a drone, like literally nothing. The only thing she mentioned was family. And those, I swear to you, obviously, it goes without saying, we need to capture the aesthetics of the day. They're spending so much money on the aesthetics of the day or whatever. So I'm assuming that she knows that that's a no-brainer. But what was important to her was capturing moments on video. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, that's
the
industry.
So that to me is, I think what really truly makes our work. Not just me, it's the subjects, we're the way that we shoot it and the way that it's being edited, and sometimes, obviously, manipulated so that you're not seeing the challenges of the day, is wonderful. But it's the moments that are, I think, that make that make our work special. I think. I don't know.
Well, I
I'm
mean,
being
I
too
think
cheesy.
it's like, if you want to look at what is the skill that lets you get the moment, I don't think it's love. I don't think it's caring. I think it's anticipation. I think if you are good at anticipating, you'll be much luckier and you'll get more high percentage of good shots that are meaningful. And I think all the best filmmakers I know can anticipate what is going to happen, and then they just try to be there. I want to be there when it happens. I want to be there when this moment happens, this smile happens. But I think it's also just
We
being.
also have you have a pre-production process. I mean, I also have a pre-production process where I try to get to know things that might be happening.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's a wedding event. Things are going to be happening that you have no idea, that even the couple will have no idea about. But there, I do have a pre-production process with our couples or planner where it's really, really good to be aware of particular things and prepared for particular things that are going to be happening. Not just the timeline, but moments, things, details.
Well, and there's like a timeline within a
special,
timeline too. Like when you,
yeah.
when you look at a production schedule from a wedding planner. I was with a guy the other day. One of my guys. He's reading me the timeline, and I was going crazy because he's reading me like, couple gets into car 7:05, wedding party, and I was like, I don't care about any of that. I was like, I don't need to know like that. I need to know this, this, and this. This is what I need to know from this timeline. And you see so many people, they don't know how to edit in their preparation. They don't know how to edit their time. They're shooting and they're like doing things that are a waste of time. Like one of my big tests on a young shooter is that I always do a 15-minute test. And I say to them, go shoot cocktail hour for 15 minutes. Come back and help me do X. And I don't really need them to do the cocktail hour. What I'm trying to figure out is when they're shooting, are they also able to keep track of what's going on with their time? And if they're shooting for 30 minutes and they come back and I said, why didn't you come back in 15 like I said? They're like, oh, I just lost track of time. I'm like, you just lost 15 minutes of detail shots because you're not present. You're not mentally present with what you're doing. You're in another world. You're thinking about your camera. You're thinking about your lenses. You're thinking about this and that and the other thing. I'm always thinking about time when I'm shooting a wedding. And when I'm in the moment, I try to be in the moment with the couple. But if I'm not with the couple, I'm always trying to pick up time. Either getting ahead of the schedule so that way I can be waiting for that moment. Like, oh, the couple wants to come in and see the room that the planner did a bunch of design for. That's a very important thing to the couple, but to the planner too, and all my partners and everyone. But I got to be standing there waiting because no matter what they say, they're not going to come and tell me. Like, they're going to just do it.
Yeah.
And it's like, I have to have the details shot and everything done, and I got to be anticipating and I got to be ready to go. And so many people, they're not ready for the moment. They're behind schedule all day once the wedding day starts.
Yeah, there are definitely some parts of the day that are really tight, like in the timeline. You just like you really need to plan that out as best as possible. Why we have I'm sure you've had weddings where the cocktail hour is before the ceremony, and you really need to plan that out appropriately.
I think city weddings give us a bit of an advantage here, by the way, Sharrone, because I have the privilege of kind of shooting in a couple different locations pretty regularly. One of the things I notice about shooting in the city is like you lose like an hour and a half every time just doing stupid city stuff. Being stuck in traffic, waiting for things, taking trolleys, parking your car.
Yeah.
You get really good and more efficient with your time when you're shooting in that environment than when you're shooting in like a country club and like you actually have like 4 hours of doing nothing.
Yeah, I mean, and that's so rare to actually have that kind of time, especially these days. And on the timeline, a lot of times too, when it looks like you have, all that buffer time, it just turns into like all of a sudden you're behind schedule. It's just
Yep. It's a
honestly the way
reality.
I always the reality is, and I always tell couples, um, I mean, when that's the great thing about like a good planner is that they'll know exactly how to put a proper timeline together, and or anyone that knows how to put a proper timeline together. But typically, no matter what, a wedding is a wedding, and anything. I mean, it's very rare that things don't run at least 15 to 30 minutes behind.
Well, not only that,
You know?
like the things that you need to, there's like the unique things that you try to, honestly, try to get as lucky as you can in capturing those unique one-off moments. But then there's also just the same stuff
Yeah.
that happens at every wedding, pretty much, that you need to shoot and you need to get it done. And it's like you need to make, in my opinion, a process to document the easy stuff, make it as easy as possible so that you can have time to be creative and to do something interesting and you have the emotional energy. One of the things I've been working on lately, Sharrone, and honestly kind of inspired by you, is just interesting toast angles. I feel like makes
Yeah.
such a
Yeah.
difference in the film.
Yeah, well, again, I always say like for portraits, it's wonderful to have portraits because it's beautiful eye candy, it's intimate moments. Portraits make great transition shots and help with the storytelling, yes. But for me personally, all I need is a handful. Not even. Give me 4 or 5 great like portrait moments. I'm fine with the film. But if I'm not getting proper real moments like speeches, if the ceremonies it doesn't come out nice and interest, even like just pretty angles, and lighting, those real moments are that's what that's where I stress more. First dance, parent, like any formalities, real, even dancing, like real things actually happening. Those are the important things for me more
And by
than,
important, by the way, you mean
you know,
like you put
for the film.
creative energy
Yeah.
into making them
Yes.
special.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
I,
So
I,
that's
I
where
totally agree.
we really, yeah, that's where we really try. And the irony is that those parts of the day are also not that directable.
No.
We can set up our lighting when we can set up our lighting. We can ask someone to stand where they want to stand, and I know people bring in their own mic stands and stuff like that. I don't do that. I mean, we have enough shit we have to bring. A mic stand is great. When there's, the band will put a mic stand down or whatever. I've even had, we know friends that like gas tape the mic down to the mic stand. I mean, we don't do that. But you kind of just, you have to go with the flow of the actual day. But yeah, those are the moments that are least directable. You just kind of do as much as
But
you
it stands
can
out so much more
to.
when you do it beautifully. That's my opinion.
Yeah,
Is like
yeah.
the average
I mean,
person is
even for
mailing it in. They're not
ceremony,
even trying to get those shots in an interesting way. They're just like, yeah, I'll just point my 7200 and call it at that. And when somebody's like
yeah.
looking for that good foreground moment or like anticipating what's going to happen when everyone raises their glasses, what's that going to look like in this frame? It's it's
Yeah.
it's it's like allowing yourself to have more information in the frame and more going on so that way you don't need to go like, crap, I better get a gimbal shot of that to make it interesting, because otherwise
Right. Again, it doesn't need to be. It doesn't need to be. There's a difference between something that's overly creative and interesting. So, when something, I feel like when something is, I love, so I used to really concentrate, and I'm sure that you've seen this part of what's evolved in what we do. I think being creative is okay, wait. The word isn't creative. The word is artistic, right? Being
Yeah.
overly artistic, like overly artsy, like artsy shots, right? They're awesome. However, in reality, they do pull the viewer away from moments. So if I'm in the middle of watching something emotional, right, or funny or anything, whatever, then there's like, I'm feeling that.
Yeah.
But if I'm just sitting there watching these like super artistic, like artsy shots, but I'm just going, wow, that's a cool shot. Wow, that's a cool shot. Wow, I'm not feeling anything really other than like, just being wowed by a shot.
Well, and
Does
also,
that make sense?
yeah, when you take a mundane, and it's a toast at a wedding, so I guess it's kind of unique in itself because how often do you do that? But regardless, I think it's considered by most wedding filmmakers like the throwaway shot. They're like, oh, we're just have a toast and whatever happens, happens. We don't really care. We're just gonna point it, and like in the background, the DJ's standing there, and it's you can tell there's not a lot of thought put into it. And given I have had plenty of these toast shots where I'm like, there is no good angle, that sucks. That being said,
we all have that. We all have that.
When you find a good one, it's so much more unique than a good portrait. That's my opinion.
I think so, and it's real, and it's what we're shooting a wedding. We're shooting a real actual day. I don't want to make it like we're obviously not the what we're doing is not like it's not like we're winning Nobel prizes or anything like that. I've met people actually recently that are really actually making a difference in the world. But what we are capturing a once in a lifetime, hopefully, day for these couples that is one of their most important parts of their days of their lives that you don't have a second chance in.
There's
no retakes.
It's a beautiful moment.
Yeah.
Right.
So
to me, it's like imagine how you would feel and
portraits.
I imagine how you would feel, and this is kind of dark, but the best comparison I can make to wedding filmmaking would be a person who made films of birth or a person who made films of people on their deathbed.
Yeah.
And I know those are dark / gross, but when you think about like the major transitions in the people's life, like that you love, there's like them being born, them dying, them getting married. And then there's a bunch of other things in between, but like this is a human moment.
It's a human moment. Yeah.
And it's like, I view our job as like borderline sacred. Like
sacred's a good word. Yeah. I love that.
Like we're participating.
Sacred is a great word.
In something transcendent, it's not a product. It's
imagine the level of trust that these people are giving us, like to capture. One of my brides, the one that I'm working on now, she actually told me, they had everyone put their phones away for ceremony. So they haven't seen anything from their ceremony yet. They haven't seen anything really they haven't seen anything.
Yeah.
And that was like our responsibility to give them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And something like ceremony is, you can't fuck that up.
Even a dance, you
can't F that up.
I hate the dances. I don't want to, they're not that I hate them. I'm just like, it's easy for me to get bored with the same stuff everyone else gets bored with, is what I'm saying. And, you shoot dances and vast majority of them, it's nothing remarkable, right? Sometimes it's great, but a lot of times it's just like, okay, I shot a dance and it's fine. But every once in a while, and you just don't know, and this is why it's so important to bring your A game every time, is every once in a while, something happens. And you feel like you're being let in on like a secret. Like you're sitting there shooting and you're like, I don't even know these people in reality. And they're just this intimate moment I'm being allowed. I did want to.
It's a vulnerable day for them, vulnerable, emotional day for them, Yeah.
Yeah, I did one a couple years ago that
exactly
where there was a bride, and I kind of knew about this ahead of time, but I didn't fully get the gravity of it. She had breast cancer a couple years before. And from what I remember, they were scheduled to get married and then they couldn't. And I believe she had a mastectomy and, everything that goes along with that journey.
Hard. Yeah.
And she almost died. And they're doing this first dance to this Mumford & Sons song. And it was a holy moment. Like, I looked around the room. This day shouldn't be happening. Like, she shouldn't be alive. And yet, her dream wedding is happening. She made it through. Her dad's over there weeping. Everyone's crying. Then they do the first dance with dad. They're weeping. I find out 3 months later that everyone knew their dad had cancer and he died.
Oh, God.
And you're just, it's awful, but it's also beautiful because they all knew this.
Yeah.
They all knew what was going on.
Yeah.
And they're living their life in that moment. They're shutting out all that stuff and they're celebrating. And I think like, what else is there in life? Why are we not considering ourselves of the finest artists who are creating something like so pure, so beautiful, so incredible? In my opinion, you should consider that when you're shooting and try to shoot with that level of care when someone is nice enough to give you their money.
And that's what we do. Honestly, for a long time, that's what we do. I've been doing this for a long time and I still love shooting weddings, and I genuinely love our couples and their families. I live through them, like, just because I don't really have my family around. So I love, it's just a really special day where, most of the time where they'll never see the same people under one roof for a long time, if ever.
Totally.
So it really is a special day.
Once in a lifetime.
When you come at it from a perspective, if you come at it from a perspective like that, where you're really putting your heart into it and not just your Instagram, thinking about your Instagram reel or whatever, which we all get caught up in, of course, because again, like,
you need to.
There's also, exactly. That's what I mean. You also need to feel inspired. But when you come at it from that perspective, that's where you find passion.
Well, I've never heard a person,
where you just.
I've never heard a person, Sharrone, tell me that they're burnt out from telling people's love stories. What the heck?
No, honestly, like I'll tell you where my burnout comes from. There was a time, and I'm sure you remember it, where we would just do our work. We would shoot, we would edit a lovely edit and share it with the couple, and that would be it.
That's
and
it.
We
See
would
peace be with you.
Feel our fulfillment and and just love what we do. And it was just, obviously, again, there's always the pressure of weddings, whatever, But now we have to be content creators and, like social media marketers, and which I won't fall into that trap. But, now Instagram won't push anything that's over, 90 seconds. And how the fuck are we supposed to tell a story in 90 seconds? You know what I mean? So we're being forced to put out these little, razzle dazzle reels that, it's just eye candy, which is great. It's fun here and there, but that's where I feel burnt.
It's
you
just
know
work.
what I mean?
It's just
having to do all that stuff.
that to me is just work. The other stuff is art. And I think you need to do work. If you're in this industry, you're going to like, nobody can have a job where they like every part about it. It's just, that's not mature.
Right.
But, I think you got to know where you get your energy from. And if you don't know that what you're doing is important, you won't be able to do the things that you don't think are important. Like,
I mean, and also you have to know, listen, you have to know yourself and own what you're doing and why you're doing it. So there are people that really just want to create art and call it a day. That's it. They want to just shoot, beautiful things and post beautiful things or whatever. They're not really, their heart's not really in the day and the meaning of it or whatever. And it is what it is. But,
I wonder if those people stick around that long though. I tend to think like those people don't.
I really think I think you have to love what you're in our industry. I really feel like you have to love. I really think you have to love what you do to stay around. Like you genuinely love what you do to stay around for long. And I also think that you have to sort of appreciate and almost enjoy the challenges and stress that comes along with it. I feel like I thrive off of, sometimes just hours of no sleep and the pressure of things or whatever. It just, that's what keeps us alive, I guess.
Struggle. You need the striving.
Yeah.
I need it. I need like to feel normal. Maybe that's because I'm psychotic, but, I agree with you. No, totally.
Well, that's what I think. I think you have to have a level of like being psychotic to like just really, to stay in it.
I don't disagree. I mean, I think, especially if you want to keep making good work, especially if you are like, people are like, oh, you do a lot of studio stuff. You must not care. You do 200 weddings. I'm like, I did 200 weddings because if I did 20, I would never release them. Because I would obsessively work on them. I would never be able to settle. I would just keep pushing.
I'm opposite, so I can only but I'm an editor first, so that's where my passion is in editing, and
I just have changed the way I think about the editing, where I'm more like, I'm gonna go and consult 5 people today on how to make them better editors and focus on these 5 different ones and change gears a lot. Then focus on one edit, because if I focus on one edit too long, it's over for me. Like I'm going, and like that's because I love it. I'm passionate about it. I don't.
Well, that's my life.
I
only do one edit at a time. And, but my couple, our couples are, I'm very open and upfront with our couples, about that. And that's what they appreciate. And, I mean, that's it. So, when I started Fiore Films, I wasn't even a shooter. I was a freelance editor, and Trish, who I was working for, pushed me to start my own thing. And so when I started Fiore Films, I think I'm assuming you're familiar with Jack, he's not with us anymore, but he was with us from the beginning, shooting for Fiore Films before I even was. So I was sending out shooters, and I was just editing for Fiore Films. So that was always the vision for Fiore Films, was for me to edit was for me to be the editor. It was always to stay small and for me to be the editor. I mean, now we have no choice. We have to have some help. But even when we have help in the, in edits, which is like anything that's posted is mine from beginning to end. But we do have, like with the longer films, have some, and the documentary edits, we have some help. But then it ends up on my timeline, and I do some re-editing and coloring and all that stuff. So it's everything's in my, I have my hands.
Imagine trying to do all that if you didn't love it. you know?
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. But
It's,
that's by choice. You know what I mean? Like I know that like so if I was a volume studio, there's just no way that you can run a business like that. You know what I mean? It's just impossible. But yeah, no, you can't do what we do if you don't really genuinely love it.
yeah, and it's like it's gonna manifest.
You know?
I think it manifests differently in different people. Like if you look at like Ray
Yeah.
Roman or Alex Douglas or you or Sharrone, or Lindsay Conklin, like all of you make very different work. You have different personalities, different
Yeah.
emphases. And I think if you're listening to this and you're out in the audience and you're listening, like the point is not to be like me or Sharrone or anyone else. I think
Right.
the point is to figure out who you are and to be yourself, and also figure out what the industry expects and see if you can deliver both. I think that is the industry. You got to make everybody happy. But don't forget, you're one of those people. If you're listening to this, you need to be happy too. You need to enjoy what you're doing.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think
Exactly.
Sharrone is a good example.
Exactly.
She does, I think you can walk and chew gum is what I like the classic saying. You can do both. You can make stuff that's true to yourself and also a wedding planner loves. You can make your clients happy and
Right.
also make something that works on Instagram. Like you can do it. It just, it just takes work. And ultimately it takes passion and love. And I think that's what I think. When I think about your work, that's what I see the most. Obviously talent, but I see the passion, the love for what you do. So I can't wait to spend some time with you in New York.
Thank you. I can't wait. We're going to have a great time. We're going to have a really great time.
Yeah. So
yeah. And there'll be, I guess there'll be a lot more takeaways than, this is just kind of like a chat, right?
Yep.
And, we're going to be giving some stuff away. I'm assuming everyone. I'm really excited to see the other speakers too. I'm really excited to see everyone that's going to be there.
Yeah,
and like you said, everyone kind of has they have a lane. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. And that's always what it is. The best part about this industry is like I think there's some common things that you have to do well, but then there's a lot of variation that you can succeed at. And we don't need cookie cutter artists. We need people to be themselves. That's what is going to make everybody better. So if you're interested in hearing more from Sharrone, we're going to be talking at Clarity about kind of defining your own, getting clear on your own unique vision of who you are. And maybe Sharrone and I will talk a little bit about kind of how she arrived at what she wanted Fiore Films to be and just kind of that process of what it means to have creative clarity. And then a bunch of other stuff, and whatever you want to ask her. If you're there, you can ask her whatever you want. I know Sharrone's pretty much an open book. And that's February 3rd through 5th. Tickets start at $9.99 for the day pass, then of course go up if you want to stay with us at the Beekman, New York City. We're starting out with a cocktail party on the 3rd, and then we're going to have sessions on the 4th and on the 5th. Sharrone's going to be primarily with us on the 4th. So if you want to hear Sharrone, that's when she should be speaking. And it's going to be awesome, and I can't wait to see you. Head over to clarity-retreat.com, sign up, and I promise you will not regret it. There are some great people going, and it's going to be a really great time. Sharrone, thank you so much for your time today.
Awesome.